to take a look at a stock chart here on a weekly basis called VMWare VMW. And we have quite a nice little gap on its earnings. Stock hasn't had a gap like this. Doesn't happen very often, but nonetheless, stock closes at $42. And I'm going to draw some trend lines here. You can see the pre-market gap is 48.67 by 70. That means that when the stock opens up, it's going to be overbought. And basically, I'm going to draw a trend line here on this weekly chart, which is $54. That's the upper end of the resistance. Down here, on the other hand, at half of this bar, is $44.20. So basically, when we look at the weekly, we're going to take a look at how much of the gap pops up in here. It had a weekly high prior to the earnings. Let's draw another trend line right on top of this weekly wick. That is 47.44. So the top of this wick is 45.61. Bridget, put your limit order out there at 45.61. And this is where we would wait for the pullback. That means that this gap is called what we call an inflated gap. It's an inflated opening gap on the equity. And the earnings were wonderful and so forth. And you can see the price prints. Let's go in here and take a look at its 3-minute chart. And basically, we can see that back over here on 119, it's not like VMware wasn't already up here, because it was. It was up here at these highs. And here are some and this is just a 3-minute chart. Now, this is an area of interest where I gave her a limit order, is right in here. Okay, so we gap up. We're going to see if we can pull back, and in what area that we pull back in here on this 3-minute chart. Now, when I look at the 15-minute chart, we can define this 15-minute chart. This is where the highs were, so it's not like it wasn't up here already prior to this earnings report. And I'm going to draw some trend lines right in here where I told her to put an order out. And some of the SMF Pro traders, senior traders, are listening to me. So we've got a $3 premium gap. It's got to pull back in here. I'm going to draw another trend line here at where this gap was at 46. This is where we had a gap down on the 15-minute. And we'll be monitoring that area, 48.51. We'll see where we come down, and when we land at support level now, that's where stock gets a lot of support, where the buyers move in. We would look at trading that bounce for an intraday profit. However, what happens with people is they'll get very excited and they'll move in on the open and they'll buy it. And what will happen is that the floor traders and market makers will walk away and drop the bid down to these support levels. So we're going to look to see exactly what kind of momentum, it's called momentum, is what kind of momentum do we actually come up with. And momentum means one thing. When you pull back, so you gap up, you pull back, you hit support, you bounce. You pull back, you hit support, you bounce. And are the pullbacks are higher than the previous pullbacks? So there's a way of having some kind of measurability. I gave her the best price. We know that 46 has got some support as well. We also know that the top of that ridge right there is at 45.65 or 64, and I'm going to give her a limit order and the rest of the people a limit order on the opening bell as to put that limit order there. And so when we take a look at a gap, a stock that gaps up, we take a look at the close, we take a look at the price of $48.40. That's a $6.40 premium. Well, if we get hit $3 on a pullback, that means that that gap is only a $3 premium, and we've cut the gap in half by 50%. So as to being able to get our entry. So there's a dollar price movement gap here that has a mathematical equation to it. I've given her the best price for now. If we pull back in that area, that's a $3.50 premium to the close on its earnings. This is how we measure trying to buy a stock that would have momentum and what the mid-range of that gap, that dollar price gap on its earnings would pull back. And so basically, this is a very good 3-minute tape. This is how we trade it here. This is what the SMF Pro Trading School does. Let me pause the tape for one. So basically, I'm going to conclude the tape. We talked about what the gap is going to be on VMware. We talked about how we're going to get entries. And basically, this is a 3-minute chart. I've showed a 15-minute chart over here. I have drawn the right trend lines here on this gap, because we're going to gap way up here. This is where we're going to open up on a 15. And so we're looking at two different chart views here. We looked at the 3-minute, naturally, and we've looked at the 3-minute and the 15-minute that I just showed you. So basically, here we are, and we'll be trading VMware. Everybody can trade this intraday, because once it pulls back, as I've said here, into these trend lines, we're going to look for that power bounce at support. Good morning, everyone. Here is that VMware trade again, and we're going to teach you how to short a gap where you can see on this 3-minute chart right here, this is where the stock had closed, okay? And we had closed down here. Here's how it works. This is how you learn how to short an opening gap. Great earnings report on VMW. This was the closing price, $42. We had some senior pro traders hit that short right on the opening bell, and we're going to come down and we're going to take our profit on the short, and then we're going to buy the equity to go long as well. So this is how you short the gap. Everyone chases the stock. We sold short the gap. That's called an inflated opening gap. And that's how we hit these trades for very quick profits, because we're too overbought here on a 3-minute chart. And I'm not going to go into detail, but we are extremely overbought on this blue indicator, which is called a moving average convergence divergence. And it went straight up to the top. So as we pull back in the equity, when we come down, and we're going to see what support levels here that I have in this chart on a 3-minute chart. And the stock market's only been open less than 4 minutes. That's how fast that short sell was. That's the big gap up right there. Kaboom. And sell short. You make money when it falls. And when it comes down here, it's going to get support. And we have certain support levels here that will work. We've got support levels right here at 46, because we do. Let me blow up the chart so that you can actually see the trend lines in here. Let's get these numbers where that you can see to the far left. Okay, we came down and we hit 47.21, and we bounced. So the swing low is 47, and I can't get my level 2 in there. Here you go. That was the high, 48.95. We started covering the short down here, and we're going to wait and see if the stock can consolidate, bounce, and then come back up and test those highs. Stock is moving very quickly. Hey, they had a great earnings. It's how to short an earnings gap. You're too overbought on the opening bell, people. That's what makes this 100% risk-reward ratio, shorting that $2 move and taking our profits. We'll come back. would be happy, join our SMF Pro Trading School. Here it is, www.stockmarketfunding.com. We're going to set up a pattern here. That's the short. That's the buy. We're going to find out in the next 15 to 20 minutes. We're overbought on the open still, and we're going to wait and see what kind of position that we can buy at support and go long, which is the opposite of when we sold short. We've covered that trade at 47.50, and we made roughly $2, a little more than $2 on that opening short. And now we're going to reverse the trade and go long.